Hello, today we're going to be talking about path lines, streak lines, and streamlines. So a path line is if you trace one particle in a fluid. So this would be like if you pick just one specific particle and you followed it along the fluid to see where it goes. And you just trace that line all the way along. Okay, next I'm going over the definition of a streak line. So a streak line is a line created by all the particles that pass through a certain point. So if I were to pick a certain point inside of the fluid, let's say we'll just draw it as a box. All the particles that pass through this point are tracked. Let's say we found and counted 4 particles that passed through this one point. All we have to do now is just trace the line that connects all 4 of these particles, and that's what you would call a streak line. Finally, I'm going to be talking about the streamlines. So a streamline is a line created by tracing velocity vectors. Now, if you don't know what velocity is, it's like if I have a particle and it has a certain speed, all I'm doing is I'm drawing an arrow for what direction the speed is, right? So let's say this particle here is moving in this direction at a certain speed. Now, if I draw a lot of these, and I draw these velocity arrows, all I need to do to get the streamline is to just follow these lines to trace out a line between particles. That's it.
Okay, so now I'm going to be going over an example of steady flow. So steady flow is when all the particles are moving in the same direction and at the same speed, right? So I'm going to draw an example of what that looks like. So as you can see, in steady flow, all the particles are very organized and they all move in the same direction. This is very similar to like the blood flowing through your veins, an example of steady flow, or water moving through a pipe. Now, since the particles are so organized, then the streamline, streak line, and path line are all just going to be the same. Okay, so now I'm going to be going over examples of unsteady flow. So if you know what unsteady flow is, it's basically when the particles are very disorganized and swirly and moving in all sorts of directions. So each particle is sort of moving in a different direction than the other ones. So it's not very organized like the previous example. So one good example of this is the surface of Jupiter. If you look at the surface of Jupiter, you see that big red spot that's really swirly. That's a good example of turbulent flow. The air on the surface of Jupiter is not very stable, so all the particles are moving in all sorts of directions. So since it's so disorganized, the streamline, the streak line, and the path line are not going to be the same in this situation, unlike the previous situation that I explained.